This episode is sponsored by Bark Technologies. If you're like me and worried about your children's online activities or their focus in the classroom and want to keep them safe, please consider the Bark phone. It was specifically designed for children, unlike iPhones, and can grow with them as more access is needed over time. Now let's get into the episode. Welcome to Teachers Talk here on Scrolling to Death. You guys are going to love this conversation with a special ed teacher at a high school in the suburbs of Chicago. Her name is Kara Waddell, and she was super open and candid about how screens, both smartphones and school-issued devices, are used at her public school and what parents may want to know about screen use at school. So let's get into my conversation with Kara.
So my name is Kara Waddell, and I teach primarily juniors this year. I teach special ed, and I am in 4 of my periods are in a co-taught classroom. So I'm in the mainstream environment, supporting the mainstream teacher with a mixture of special education students and mainstream students. And then I have a resource.
Okay, perfect. How long have you been teaching for?
This is my 24th year.
24 years. Jeez. I keep hearing all these crazy amounts of time and you guys look so young. I'm like, Jesus.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Amazing. Did you always teach special ed or did you come over to that?
Yes.
Okay.
No, always. Yes.
Very
yes.
cool.
So I've done everything from self-contained behavior support to general studies to co-taught, but I've been doing co-teaching for the last 6 years.
Okay.
That's the majority of my day.
Okay.
So that's been really a unique experience, and it gives me the opportunity to be with more students, to be honest, and to work collaboratively with other teachers, which I think is super fun.
Yeah. Okay. So your students will integrate with the main students or the students in other classrooms and kind of.
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha. Got it. Okay. So you are definitely seeing not only how your students, but all students are engaging with devices in the classroom. So that's going to be our focus today. So at your large public school, are smartphones technically banned, or is there no rule about smartphones?
We have a rule.
Okay.
It's been in place for a while, and we did try second semester to be a little bit more strict about it as a whole school. But there is a policy in place. But I truly feel that until we're phone free as a district, as a school, which I know more schools are talking about, but we are not there yet. I really think it's always going to end up falling on the individual teacher in their classroom to decide how they're going to implement and monitor whatever the school policy is.
Okay.
So I do strictly follow the school policy at my school. There are quite a few periods in my day that students do not have phones, but that is because I firmly believe in following the policy. So
okay. So is your policy specifically just no phones during class time?
Correct. They need to be in a backpack, or they need to be in a pouch or a shoe locker or something. It needs to be off their person, off their desk.
Okay. So if a teacher sees it during class time, most teachers are telling them to put it away, or teachers are a little bit sick of having to deal with it. What's the status?
The majority of teachers are probably pretty frustrated with having to deal with it.
Yeah.
And decide that that's not a battle that they're going to fight. And so phones are in a lot of classrooms. And we do have quite a few teachers that follow the policy very strictly. So it's one warning, and the phone then needs to be put on the teacher's desk or in the shoe locker. Right. And then on the second warning, it is a behavior referral. So I will say we have very strong admin support, which does help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you say you wish it were phone free, what does that mean to you?
Well, I wish that they weren't allowed in the school.
Okay.
Or there was a place upon entering that they needed to drop them, or those locked pouches or whatever would take away the student's choice to be on their phone. Like that it's not on their person or they can't get to it. Because if you give a teenager a choice, they're going to be on their phone.
Of course. Yeah. Okay. So what issues are you seeing the phones causing just in the classroom?
In general, when students are on their phones in the classroom, they're not able to be present in the lesson.
Yeah.
And they're on everything from I tell them like, get off the Snap crap. Like they're on everything from, Snap to TikTok to YouTube to video games, right? You've heard it all.
Yeah.
They're just they're not able to be present with the curriculum. They're not able to engage. And so that's just like in the moment, right? They're just, their phones are in their faces if you have them in the classroom.
Okay.
And then occasionally there's some drama, right? Because things come up on Snap or on the social media site that they're on, or something happened at lunch. And so then they're very agitated. All right. So we get a lot of like emotional dysregulation because of the phone.
Yeah.
And then what I've found is really affecting their ability to comprehend and critical think and problem solve, and mostly to have endurance. They don't have the endurance that they need to get through a reading passage, to sit in an uncomfortable situation. All of those things, they're just not learning endurance, and that is super concerning to me because that's a life skill. We need that.
Right. I love how you put that endurance. And really, someone told me yesterday, like the schools were the last bastion of time that the kids had to be away from their devices. The last amount of time, several hours of the day that they got to interact face to face. And we just are taking that away from them by allowing them to have the smartphones in school. And so you talked about the issues in the classroom, and you hinted at some issues even outside of the classroom. So any specific stories around that, or any examples of how the phones can cause an issue when they're able to be used, like in the hallways or at lunchtime or in the bathroom, any of that stuff?
Yes, I believe that, like, I wish I had, data to prove it, but I am pretty sure that so we've had a very high increase in physical fights in our building.
Yeah.
And I would bet a good amount of money that the majority of those fights are instigated through a social media app of some sort, something that was posted or said or that got back to them or that was shown them. And, they're also highly agitated just from what they're seeing on their screens, whether or not it has to do with social teenage drama. So their ability to regulate their emotions is very weak.
Right.
And then if you have anything that was posted that was personal, that is embarrassing, hurtful, any comment, any of that, they're heightened already.
Totally.
And so I think that the majority of our physical fighting in our building, particularly with the girls, has a lot to do with social media.
Okay.
Typically when we get them in, and we get them calmed down and we start to investigate the incident, it's almost always comes back to a snap or a post, something of that sort.
Right. Okay, yeah. And I'm hearing that from a lot of teachers, that they're coordinating through the phones, whether it's just text message or social media, to meet somewhere for fighting. I mean, a lot of times. Or a drug deal. Have you noticed, is there any drug issues at your school?
So I have not seen that through social media. We have vaping is a major problem, like most high schools. And I think too, like the recording of the fights, recording the fights with their phones. Yeah. That's so concerning and upsetting and dangerous. And we have kids that have never had like physical altercations before that are now in, a third fight of the year, I think defending themselves from already having been recorded and posted, which is just so upsetting.
Yeah.
And that part, when the recording, the being able to have immediate access through the snapping or the texting, wouldn't happen if the phone wasn't with them.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder if you could estimate how much less learning is being done in the day due to smartphones. So if you take like a typical class period, how many minutes do you think a teacher is spending trying to manage the phones versus teaching the lesson?
So in my day, I can experience 3 different scenarios.
Yeah.
So in my classroom where we do not allow phones, we are getting, our periods are 48 minutes. We're getting, 85 to 90% of their attention because they don't have a phone. They're not allowed to have it out.
Yeah.
I have a classroom where another co-teacher does not have the same philosophy as me. And they're on their phone for the full 48 minutes. So they're losing, they're kind of multitasking if they think that that's what they can do, but they're losing nearly their whole period of instruction. And then I have then there's the teachers that want to fight the battle a little bit more, and they're probably getting 60-70% of their instruction of the period on a great day.
Right. God, what a waste of everybody's time and money and taxpayer dollars just by allowing that device in their hand. And I get why these teachers don't want to have to deal with it. I get why they're like, I'm not going to fight it. If you don't want to pay attention, that's your problem. You're going to get a bad grade.
Yes, I totally get that. But the thing for me is that they can't control it.
Right. They're addicted. Yeah, right.
So I see it personally as my job to help them get off their phones.
Yeah.
And that's why we are so strict about following the policy in our classroom, because I see the damage. I see how negatively it's impacting them. And quite honestly, I don't think it's safe. And so if they're a student in my classroom, I think it's my job to help keep them safe and teach them life skills and help them learn strategies to navigate what is going to be difficult for them, because it's difficult for all of us.
Yeah. Exactly.
Forever. And so that's why it's so important to me to keep them out of the classroom, because I need to help them learn how not to be on their phone, because it's not their fault that they're on their phone.
No.
I also understand, it's their choice. They can choose to fail, and a student can choose to fail, but I'm going to try really hard to make sure that they're not failing because they're on their phone. And try really hard to help them learn the importance of being off their phone. So if they're with me for 48 minutes, we're going to try really hard to not be on that phone, because that teaches a lot of life skills.
Yeah.
So I get it. We didn't get into teaching to be the phone police.
Right.
We didn't get into teaching to have to monitor that. Oh, Jesse's on it now, off it. Now Joey's on it. Like, we didn't get, that's right. And that's frustrating and overwhelming. So I think we've done a couple of things that really have helped, but it's just a battle that a lot of people can't and won't have for many reasons that I fully respect and understand.
Yeah.
It's just so personal to me that it is the battle I'm going to fight, because I want to help them. And I don't think it's safe for them to be on their phone in my presence.
It's really not safe. And the cards are stacked against them. These companies have built these apps to be seriously addictive, like for kids, studied their brains to make it addictive to children. And so, they can't manage it. They don't have that ability with the way that their brains are still developing. And so adults have to step up and manage it for them and give them the opportunity to have the hours or minutes away from it. Okay, so you would prefer that they be banned at your school. Why do you think your school hasn't done that yet?
The same reason like probably every teacher gave you. Parents aren't going to allow it. We're a public school. They don't want the parent pushed back. They will say we have a phone policy that is strictly followed. I just believe that is probably the main reason, that we won't do it.
Okay. Because parents want to get a hold of their kids during the day. They want to pacify them if the kid has a problem. They want to ask them what they want for dinner, or ask them how they did on their test, just kind of things like that, right?
Yes, and it's their right to have their phone, and so we can't take away their personal property. And if they want to make the choice to be on their phone, they can be on their phone. And they think it's maybe like a violation of their choice, maybe, or
Yeah, but at the detriment to their child's learning and education, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I really hope to make clear in these conversations to parents.
Right.
That if you need to get a hold of your child and they don't have a phone with them, I don't even need to state it, but you can call the office, and communicate something to them that way.
Totally. And I wish that we had a way to do a better job of really helping parents understand the dangers and the damage that phones are doing to our teens. I wish we had a way to get that information out to I feel that the parents that want that information have it. And I wish there was a way to get it out to parents that maybe aren't as educated or maybe are have different philosophies about the phone.
Yeah.
So that's something that I would love to see us at least try to do is at school or through some programming is to educate the parents on all the things you report about, and also not those, those are scary, terrible things every parent should know.
Yeah.
But parents should know the things of, how it's negatively impacting their critical thinking skills. As I mentioned earlier, their ability to have endurance, their socialization, their own behavior and self-confidence. Those are just as, not just as scary, but those are scary, really important things too that are happening to kids that have unlimited access to their phones.
Right. You would think if you got all the parents together and educated them on the effect of having the phones in the classroom, that everyone would be on board. But it just doesn't. Unfortunately, there's just too much defensiveness over that kid having that device.
I will say, though, part of our no phone policy in my own classroom, part of it is we have the parents sign the syllabus. And we specifically state our expectations regarding their phone usage, that it won't be out, it won't be on their person. If you need to get a hold of them, here's the main office number. Here is our email. If there is an emergency, we will get a hold of your child. And we make the students go over it with them and sign off on it. And we talk to every parent about it that comes to open house. And we did not have one parent. Every parent signed it.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was good. It's a small subset, it's 2 classes of 28 kids.
Yeah.
But maybe more parents would sign it if, or agree to it if we tried it.
Yeah. I think I'm hopeful for that too. And on a larger scale.
Yeah.
And if it came from the school being like, this is what we're seeing in your students, and your students are struggling when they have that phone in their hand, our teachers can't do their job. And they're not going to get the most out of this experience. And not just when it comes to like educating them on the class materials, but like engaging with peers, engaging with teachers, like learning those life skills and socializing skills that they need to learn. That's why they're there as well, those soft skills. So interesting. Okay. So what would you request if you could make a request of parents? Would it just be like, please don't send the smartphones with your kid to school?
Ideally, yes, but I have my own teenager and I send him to school with his smartphone.
Right. Yeah.
He drives to a practice with an upperclassman. I want him to have his phone for outside of school situations.
Yeah.
I just think it's like, have conversations. Can you check their screen time? Can you block it? Can you give them if it's becoming an issue, a different device? Can you encourage them not to have it out during the day? We need to work together.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not at school with my kid. I don't know if he's on his phone. I don't think so, but we have these conversations at home. We have strict rules about it at home, but talk to your teachers. We need to build a community of that. We need to work together on that. They also, I think parents need to know what their students are, many students are choosing to do when they're in the classroom.
Yeah.
And it's not classwork.
Right.
Yes, ideally I would, but I know the reality is parents are going to send their kids to school with their phones. But I wish there was some sort of, can you turn it off during the school day? Can it be blocked? Some sort of way for them to monitor how much time they're spending on their phones in the school day.
Yes, which I know that full-blown smartphones like that are built for adults are difficult to manage like that. They're difficult to put parameters on for kids. Are you seeing any kids with like flip phones or dumb phones or bark phones or anything like that? No. Okay.
No.
Okay.
And each kid has an iPad at our school too.
Yeah.
So they have like double devices at school. I don't really use the iPad because I'd rather have them read from the book.
Yeah.
If I have them on the iPad, but there's no phone policy in my classroom, they're just going to go on something on their iPad.
I know.
So, right. So we just try not to use the iPad.
Yeah.
But now they have 2 devices.
Right.
And, and a couple of my kids have other phone for other purposes that are probably not safe at all.
A second phone?
Yeah.
Like a burner phone.
Yes.
That their parents don't know about.
Right.
Okay. That's what I worry about too. So if you have a phone ban and say you collect them at the front office, or even you have to put them in like a yonder pouch that gets locked up for the day, the kids are just going to put a burner phone in there and still have their main phone.
Right.
So yeah, the solution is not made obvious yet.
Right. No, for sure. And I think it just continues to come back to educating.
Yeah.
And helping them and remembering that they're teenagers and we need to teach and parent and help them manage and monitor this the best that we can. And explain why. Give them rationale. Have these conversations.
Yeah, they're old enough to understand.
Right. Day one, we're already talking about our phone policy, literally the first day of school. And we do a whole week of reading articles about why, having discussions, explaining rationale, because I don't want to just say, you can't have your phone.
Right.
I want you to know why I don't want you to have your phone.
Yeah.
And honestly, the kids half the time don't want their phone. They're happy to give it away.
Yeah.
They just can't do it by themselves.
Right.
They can't do it if they're given the choice. But if there's no choice and they know it's the expectation, sometimes they're like relieved. 48 minutes that I didn't have to be in this drama, or I didn't have to check, or I didn't have to.
It's
right?
so sad.
It is so sad.
Yeah. And a lot of kids are sharing that they wish they had more parameters and more restrictions on their phone, or that they got a phone later. I hope there's a movement generally to just give kids phones later.
Yep.
Smartphones. Start with more simple devices and give them the dumb phones, give them the bark phones. They do a lot of things. They can do everything they need to do without that social media aspect. Jumping in here to tell you guys a little bit more about the Bark phone. If you don't want your kids signing up for social media, an iPhone is not going to do it. The Bark phone starter plan comes with talk and text only. And then if and when you're ready to start integrating some social media access, there are advanced plans available that offer social media, but not without your approval. Plus, it has advanced content monitoring, which will send you alerts of potential dangers. But when it comes to a basic phone that won't addict and distract your child from school or healthier activities, the Bark phone is where it's at. If your child already has an iPhone and you don't want to switch it up, layer on Bark parental controls as a baseline. You can set screen time rules, block certain websites and apps, get alerts, and tons of other helpful options for parents. Back to the conversation with Kara. I also hear things about schools thinking about blocking social media sites from the campus. So anyone that's on like the Wi-Fi at the campus, now kids can get around that. They create their own like little VPNs and things like that, which I don't fully understand. But there's always a workaround, but we just do the best we can to manage most of the devices. Let me finish up with smartphones, and then we want to talk about those iPads at your school. So do smartphones belong in the classroom?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
1,000% no.
Okay. And you would be in support of your school implementing some kind of phone ban?
Yes. And I mean, I will, like I said, like our administration has tried. They really wanted to really nail it down second semester, but it's still up to each individual teacher.
Okay.
And it gets tiring.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
So do your students have one-to-one iPads given by the school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So they have their own iPads. One thing when I hear about iPads, do they have keyboards as well?
No.
So they're learning how to type like on the iPad screen?
Yes.
Is that the same placement of the letters as a keyboard?
Not exactly. And it's not the same like distance apart. So it's like pecking.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That should not be allowed. These kids, so they don't know how to type. Like type.
Correct.
Okay.
So if they're writing an essay, they can get the keyboard and attach it to the iPad.
Okay.
We handwrite essays in our class for many reasons, but like AI and the typing and we just handwrite essays.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes nearly impossible to read, but we do have them handwrite the essay because we were having trouble with like AI and it not being theirs or not being their Google Doc or sending the Google Doc to someone to do it for them. And, that's not helping us assess their learning.
Okay.
So
you kind of took a step back from using the electronic for that part of the learning. That's great.
Correct.
You mentioned handwriting. So what like grade level would you say their handwriting is at?
I mean, most of it I can read, but they cannot do cursive.
Right.
So it's all printing. But like fourth grade,
maybe fourth grade, fifth grade.
maybe.
Okay. And they're like 11th graders.
They're 11th graders.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you can read it, but it's barely legible.
Yeah. We have 2 students. I cannot have handwrite. They have to type it because I can't read it.
Okay.
We can't read it.
Right.
But we have them like voice to text it or type it during the period.
Okay.
So that it's, not being taken home.
Okay. They're allowed to take home their iPads, I'm assuming, because it's 1-to-1.
Yeah. They get them freshman year and they can buy them by senior year or they can return them.
Oh, they have the option to buy them after they're done?
Yes.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
I'm confused by that. Okay.
No.
You're in high school, so this is a no. But have any parents opted out of the school-issued device or not wanted it at their home? No. Yeah, that's okay. I think I'm the only one to have done that in my kids' elementary school. And it was a no.
Well, I get it. For sure, particularly elementary school. I mean, I will say my son had a Chromebook, but at least it had he can type.
Yeah, I know. Right.
So at least they did like those typing lessons where you type as fast as you can, at least he can type.
Yes.
So I felt a little bit better about that.
Right.
But even then it was like, you're opening your Chromebook, you're doing your homework, you're putting your Chromebook away.
Yeah.
My son has an iPad too. Their school does an iPad.
Okay.
Well, we had to purchase it, but they do an iPad.
Okay. If you guys couldn't or didn't want to purchase it, did he have another option for his school?
No. All of his texts are online.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple things here. So are kids accessing anything inappropriate on their school-issued devices? Yeah.
I mean, of course. Yes. I really try not to screen peek. I mean, I know if I see YouTube, it's YouTube. It used to be Netflix a lot. I don't see that as much.
Okay.
But a lot of it is they will have their school class curriculum on their iPad. Mm-hmm. But because a lot of the phone policy is not super enforced,
right,
they'll just have TikTok on their phone on their desk.
Right.
I'm like, TikToking is not part of our education. Can we turn it off?
Right.
I haven't seen anything so inappropriate or upsetting. I've never had to turn somebody in for, being on a porn site or something that I've caught in class.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're on all sorts of things. A lot of gaming.
On the school-issued devices?
Yes. And a lot of Netflix or YouTube.
Okay. I'm just surprised at the fact that they can access games. Is it educational games or it's just they're able to access Roblox and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, just all sorts of games. And the silly ones that you can just get on your phone, mm-hmm. those silly ones, they're just doing that mindlessly.
Okay.
My biggest frustration is YouTube. Yeah. And we've asked so many times, can we just get YouTube blocked? Mm. And we just keep getting told well, some teachers use YouTube for educational purposes.
Yeah.
And that's just frustrating to me because we have a couple students that truly that's our behavior goal for them. They need to stop being on YouTube because they're not doing their work, but the school won't block YouTube. So then their hands are tied.
Yeah, I've had this fight with my kids' school too. Not that my kids, I don't think, even know to get to it yet, but they have Safari with YouTube access, adult YouTube, and I'm for my kindergartner. And I'm like, this is not appropriate. There's very inappropriate things on here. And they said the same thing, that some teachers use it. And if we block it from some devices, it would be blocked for the whole school. There just seems to be the technologies available to the schools seem to be very limited in what they can control. Too limited, not in favor of the student, keeping the students safe, in my opinion. Yes. Okay. So how often would you say if a kid is on a school-issued device, how often are they doing something they're not supposed to do?
Probably without redirection, nearly the whole period.
Oh.
With redirection,
yeah,
we can get them back on what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay. You're saying continual redirection? Continual redirection.
Continual redirection.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So a teacher has to continually over and over redirect each individual student to keep them on the app they're supposed to be on for the class lesson.
Yes.
This is not an effective solution for learning.
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of us are going back. We're going back to paper and pen. We're going back to real books because that's not what we got into teaching for.
Right.
They're not learning. I'm not going to come to school to babysit you on your phone. That's not what I want to happen. So a lot of teachers are choosing to just go back to pen and paper.
Great.
Which I think is great.
Yeah.
I think it's great. We all know the research on pen and paper and real text and increased comprehension and all of those benefits. So I think that's great. And I do see movement in that, because the other concern is everything's on the screen. Their grades are on their screen, PowerBook or, Infinite Camp, whatever. Every school has their own system. Sometimes all of their assignments are posted on the screen. They're accessing every text on the screen. I mean, that's just not even good for your eyes or your posture or any of those things.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm hoping that at least maybe if we can't do that phone ban and that maybe we're going to get back a little bit to the basics on these one-to-one devices. Maybe schools can still give them to the kids, but more and more teachers are going to start to just go back to pen and paper. I think that would be huge for kids. That would be a big win.
Yeah. I've seen some schools going back to the cart system where you just have to check it out when you need it.
Right.
But you don't have it on you all the time. So do you feel like learning through the technology is as effective as the hand-to-paper lessons?
No.
Okay. I'm so glad that you're going back to pen and paper whenever possible.
Yes.
Because there is research to show that they do retain more and learn more from actual paper.
Yes.
Which I just was posting something today and I was like, I feel like our children are just guinea pigs in this crazy experiment. Like we just gave them all these devices to learn from without having any research to show that it's better or even as good to learn from a device as it is not from a device.
Right. Exactly. But there is some, there's profit and deals and right. So
yeah, a lot of the funding does come from the federal government down through to the states and the districts. And this federal government will do deals with tech companies. And in the beginning, in 2010s, 2012, the tech companies were basically giving schools iPads, Chromebooks for free. I mean, that was so smart of them to get the school hooked. I mean, once you've integrated that device, it's hard to they're not going to take it away at this point.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we don't have access to textbooks anymore. Getting them is nearly impossible. It's hard to step back in that, for sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very smart.
God. So overall, do you feel like you have control over the school-issued devices used in your classroom?
I personally do feel like I have control because it's important and I have rules and expectations in place, and we're trying to really take a step back from that.
Yeah, that's good.
But I don't have, Apple Classroom or something where if they're not on a book that we're reading and they're on something else, I can't see that or stop them from doing that. We tried that a couple times, but managing that in itself is taking away from the curriculum as well. So I'm not,
A lot of teachers will say they have a system like Land School or some different systems where they can mirror all the kids' screens onto their screen and see what the kids are looking at and knock them off of whatever they're on, close it down virtually.
Yes.
Which they say, I can't spend my lesson just watching everybody's screen. I have to teach.
Right.
So
right. Exactly.
That's not really helpful. And so do you feel generally like the iPads at school are being relied on too heavily, or are they being used effectively?
I just think they're not being used effectively. I just think, once again, you're putting this device in a teenager's hands and we're expecting them to use it responsibly. That's just not even fair to the kid. I think there are high achieving, responsible kids and regular responsible. There are responsible students that do not spend their day on Netflix. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the majority of kids will get pulled in at some point in the day to something on their device, even their school issued device, that is distracting them from being fully present and being able to take in their entire experience in their classroom.
Yeah. Okay. My perfect world would be not being a teacher, but I wish that these school devices could be locked down in a way where they only get access to what they need for the lesson. I wonder what your perfect world would look like when it comes to your students and technology, whether that be the smartphone or the school issue device.
Yes. So I definitely think that being able to lock down what they were on the iPad would be huge, because we are in a place where even getting access to full textbooks is nearly impossible, right? There, we are in a place where a lot of things are easy to download, and there are some things that maybe many teachers need tech for assignments or lessons. But then we should be able to lock it down so that the kid can actually be on that assignment and on that lesson. And that draw to go somewhere else is taken away because they can't do it.
Yeah.
And the phones, I just wish that everybody followed the policy, or they just weren't in the school, because it's too tempting. It's too tempting for them. It's their life. They are addicted. They struggle so much with having responsible use around their phone. And we need to help them have time away from their phone.
Yeah.
There's no place for them in the classroom.
No. And
they need a break.
Yeah. And that should be at school. Parents are going to make their own decisions at home. But for the parents to be dictating that kids also have device in their hand at schools is crazy to me. Like, that's their time to be learning and socializing with friends and teachers, not spending any time on a device unless it's really relevant to the lesson.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is a tricky question, does tech belong in schools?
A lot of restriction in the sense of limiting anything they can do besides educational things. Because I do know that I'm not clearly a very high tech person. I never have been. I think that we can do a lot without it. That being said, there are some really amazing lessons and content and curriculum and content areas that need it, that flourish with it,
right?
And that would be ridiculous to say there's not a place for tech in the classroom. However, all tech in the classroom needs to be monitored and restricted, and that needs to be in a way that teachers don't have to do the majority of the work for that.
Yeah.
So whether that's tech blocking, blocking all things except the curriculum, whether that's a phone-free school, following the cell phone policy, whatever. I don't have the answers. I just know that I know what I'm doing is working, and I think that's great. And I know that lots of teachers are working really hard to move forward on this, to change it, to help make a difference. But if it is not supported on a bigger scale, where we have restrictions and blocking and kids are not tempted, then I don't think that there's a great place for tech in the classroom, because we're not getting the benefits of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the benefits outweigh the risks. I mean, our kids are in crisis. So those content areas that flourish with it, even those areas probably need some support with regards to other things students shouldn't be accessing when they're working on that amazing content.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Okay. A couple more things. Does tech make your job easier or harder?
Harder, 1,000%.
Okay.
I mean, teaching is just completely different, right? And we are losing teachers by the day because our job is so overwhelming. And really, just so much is out of our control. And we can only have so much bandwidth for all of the different responsibilities that we have that we honestly aren't even trained for.
So you kind of feel like teachers generally don't have the right amount of training on how to deal with the devices in the classroom and support for managing the devices.
I think in general, yes.
Yeah.
In general, yes. I think yes. I mean, we are lucky, but
yeah.
In general, across the United States, yes, I believe so.
Yes, totally. Yeah, got that. Okay. Anything else you want to share with parents who are listening, or with school districts or anything like that on the topic of screens at school?
I really hope that we can always keep in mind that these are teenagers and this is not their fault.
Yeah.
And we need to help them manage something that is so difficult. And I want, also to just motivate or inspire people to know that you can have phone-free classrooms or homes, or work towards not allowing teens to have unrestricted, excessive use on devices. Because what we witness day to day is just really sad and scary. And I just want to be part of the solution. And I know that we can. If more and more people work together to say, we're going to have restrictions, we're going to follow the cell phone policy, we're going to talk to our children about these situations and not allow excessive, unrestricted access in schools, at homes. I know we can make a difference. I know we can. And it's time. And it is in the news and on the front pages, and good things are happening. So I guess we can do it. I know that one by one, classroom by classroom, parent by parent, that I do have hope. And it is really hard, really, really hard. And it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of consistency and a lot of fights. Yeah. But it's worth it. Yeah. We have to help our kids.
Yeah. Thank you, Kara. And you're a part of the solution by sticking to the phone policy in your classroom and not giving in. And also by speaking up and being open to sharing with the public on your thoughts on this and your experiences in the classroom, because parents need to understand how our kids' learning is being affected by them just having a phone in their hand, whether or not you think they're getting distracted on it. Likely they are. And so we have to implement restrictions from the parental level with parental monitoring, or give them a safer phone or no phone or a watch. We have options, but like you said, it's about also communicating with the kids about how harmful it could be and how distracting it could be, and get their buy-in. And I know it's hard, but I do have hope as well that as a group, we can start to shift things in the right direction.
We need to work together as a community and make it more of like the norm to do these things that are so important for our children.
Yeah. And teachers and parents on the same page. Like, let's get on the same page and not fight against each other. So. Yes. For sure. Thank you, Kara, for your time. This was so wonderful.